am not a diehard Indiana fan. I am not a diehard Ohio State fan. But I am beyond excited for this game on Saturday. Maybe even too invested in this game on Saturday. Because if you have told me back in the preseason that this would be a top 5 matchup with college football playoff implications, I would have laughed in your face. The stakes are massive in Columbus on Saturday morning. Number 5, Indiana. Number 2, Ohio State. The Hoosiers having their best season in program history, 10-0 for the first time ever, a 10-win season for the first time ever, hoping to continue that magical ride, while Ohio State is trying to avoid their second loss of the season and looking to avoid sweating it out on Selection Sunday. And we are here to break down everything you need to know for this game and, of course, share our official prediction here at the Gridiron Expert. So welcome back, guys. We're so glad you could join us today. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our exclusive expert picks. Expert picks that have beat out over 80% of the national handicappers each of the last 6 years, and our new holiday special that will give you some of the best bowl game spread picks in the entire country. We have never had a bowl season, a postseason, where we've gone under 60%. We have hit at least 60% of our bowl bets every single year. You also get the final 4 weeks of the NFL regular season and all of the NFL playoffs. So the link for that down in the description below. We'd love for you to start winning with us this holiday season and become a member of our GE Nation. So what's crazy about this game, guys, I mean, there's so many things. You could run with it so many different directions, but I want to touch on history for a second. First off, it's actually interesting. Top 5 matchup, that was unprecedented. No one saw this coming, but it is crazy to think about. This is the second top 10 meeting between Indiana, Ohio, and Ohio State in the last 5 years. If you remember, back in that COVID season, Indiana had a pretty special year led by Michael Penix, and we had a top 10 showdown between the Hoosiers and the Buckeyes in Columbus. Ohio State winning that game 42-35, a battle between Michael Penix and Justin Fields. So, second top 10 matchup in the last 5 years between these two programs. I mean, who would have thought that? But Ohio State has won 28 straight games against Indiana. The Buckeyes have won 28 straight games against the Hoosiers, their last loss coming all the way back in 1988. Question is, can they keep that streak going against what is clearly the best Indiana football team, arguably in program history? Let's take a look at the offense first. We'll start with Indiana. Look, they're good, man. I don't care what you say about, Indiana, they haven't played anybody. Ohio State's played tougher teams. Yes and no. Ohio State, yes, clearly has played Oregon and Penn State, which are tougher teams that Indiana has faced. But they have faced a lot of similar opponents, and Indiana has looked and played arguably better in those games than Ohio State did. Blowing out Nebraska, Ohio State did not. Beat Michigan State by more than Ohio State did. Again, those are weaker teams that both these teams have faced. Indiana's a good team. Don't try to undermine it. They are a good team. They are really good offensively, averaging nearly 44 points per game, over 275 passing yards per game, over 176 rushing yards per game. Curtis Rourke has been phenomenal this year, transferring in over 2,400 yards, 21 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions. Justice Ellison has nearly rushed for 700 yards and 6 touchdowns on the year, or 9 touchdowns, excuse me. They have 7 guys on the team with at least 100 reception yards. They know how to share the football. Elijah Surratt, the leading wide receiver, nearly 700 yards and 6 touchdowns. Omar Cooper, over 500 yards, 5 touchdowns. This is the 15th ranked offense in the nation. Indiana boasts a top 15 offense in the country, averaging over 450 yards per game. We just listed the stats. They're extremely balanced. They have the ability to have explosive plays. They also have the ability to create long, methodical drives. And I think you have to have a mix of both of those in this game against Ohio State. To win in such a hostile environment, you have to not only maintain your sense of balance, and this clearly is a balanced offense, but you have to have that mix of big-time explosive plays, but also a method and the ability to create some long, sustained drives that do result in points to keep this Ohio State offense off the field. Because when you look at Ohio State's offense, they maybe aren't as good statistically as we thought they'd be, but they are still very, very good. They're 18th in the nation, averaging just 451 yards per game. So Indiana just slightly better than Ohio State overall when it comes to the statistics. 267 passing yards per game for Ohio State. Will Howard leading the way with over 2,400 yards and 24 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions. Both quarterbacks clearly taking very, very good care of the football. Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka are one of the best wide receiver duos in the entire country. They've accounted for 17 of the 24 passing touchdowns from Ohio State this year, or from Will Howard, I should say. 17 of the 24 touchdowns have come between Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka. They are the top two targets, and the guys that Indiana really is going to have to focus on in this game. The ground game for Ohio State, very talented as well. Got a dual-headed threat in the backfield with Quinshon Judkins, who transferred in from Ole Miss, has over 700 yards this year. Travion Henderson, over 660 yards this year. And if you look at Ohio State in their two biggest games they've played, and we'll touch on this defensively as well, those two games were against Oregon and Penn State. The offense was balanced, and they were able to establish the run. Oregon, 467 yards in that game, had 141 rushing yards on the day, 31 points. Against Penn State, 359 yards against the Nittany Lions in Happy Valley, 177 rushing yards on the day. Balance is key for them. Yes, in that Oregon game, they had over 300 passing yards and weren't as balanced against the Ducks, but they were able to mix it up a little bit. They weren't one-dimensional. And they've got to find a way, like Indiana, to maintain that sense of balance and not become one-dimensional. Why? Because defensively, Indiana is really dang good. This is a battle between the number 3 defense in the country in Indiana and the number 2 defense in the country in Ohio State. So as good and efficient and as balanced as these offenses have been, there's a very good chance that this could be a low-scoring game in Columbus. Maybe not similar to that 42-35 game we saw back in 2020. When you take a look at Indiana, again, the 3rd-ranked defense in the nation. If you want to chalk that up to all the bad teams Indiana's played, that's fine. Well, Ohio State's got a lot of their stats padded from all the bad teams they played too. Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall, Michigan State, Iowa, guys like that. All right, Iowa, some would say, oh, they're a good team. Are they really, though? Are they really? They're not. So you look at Indiana. 255 yards per game. That's all they're giving up. They're 21st in the nation against the pass, giving up just 183 passing yards per game. They are the number one ranked rushing defense in the country, allowing just 72 rushing yards per game. So that begs the question, can Ohio State run on them? Can Quinshon Judkins, can Travion Henderson, can they get something going against this stingy Indiana front seven, this stingy Indiana rushing defense? This is obviously the toughest test Indiana has faced all year long in a very tough and hostile environment, no doubt about it. But defense does travel. Defense travels. So the question is, can Ohio State run on the Hoosiers? Second thing, can Indiana force turnovers? They've done a great job of that so far in year one under Kurt Cignetti. They have forced 17 turnovers this year. They have forced at least one turnover in each of their last 4 games. And have forced at least one turnover in 8 of the 10 games that they've played. Remember, they are 10-0. So Indiana doing a great job of creating takeaways. They're converting on those takeaways. You're going to need that if you want to pull off an upset, a massive one at that, on the road. Ohio State, we said it, they're number 2 overall defensively. They're pretty dang good, giving up just 250 yards per game, only 160 through the air, and only 90 on the ground. That's 4th. So neither team probably going to generate much success on the ground. Both Indiana and Ohio State are phenomenal in shutting down the opposing running games. But for me, in this game, Indiana's been good running the ball, yes, averaging nearly 180 rushing yards per game. But for me, if I'm Ohio State, if I'm Ryan Day, you've got to find a way to limit Curtis Roark and these wide receivers. That's what's winning games for Indiana. The balance is there. The balance has helped them out tremendously, right? But if I'm Ohio State, I'm taking my chances. I'm saying, you know what? Let them run. Let them run. We've got to find a way to stop Curtis Roark, who is one of the best quarterbacks, not just in the Big Ten, but in the entire country, and these wide receivers that have been electric all year long. They've got to find a way to stop the passing game. Against Oregon, you look at the 2 biggest games Ohio State has played this year. Against Oregon, they allowed 496 yards of offense, including 341 passing yards in that game. The Ducks had 32 points, won 32-31. Against Penn State, they allowed 270 yards of offense, which is not bad at all. 150 passing yards for the Nittany Lions, 120 rushing yards. And again, they had 0 offensive touchdowns. The only touchdown the Penn State scored was off of that pick 6. The Buckeyes' passing defense has, again, been phenomenal. They've allowed over 200 passing yards just twice this year, once against Oregon, the other last week against Northwestern, and that was only 201 passing yards, and Ohio State won, 31-7? So bottom line is, we've seen the Buckeyes put up fantastic stats. We've seen them been phenomenal against the pass, but the best quarterback they have faced this year, Dylan Gabriel, absolutely torched them. Absolutely torched them. Curtis Warwick is not Dylan Gabriel, but he's up there. He's up there statistically. He's up there in terms of taking care of the ball. He's up there with his playmaking ability. Can they slow him down and force Indiana to be one-dimensional? That is the million-dollar question. So, guys, what's going to happen here? I've seen a million different projections on what's going to go down Saturday morning. Big noon kickoff, which is just a travesty that every week, one of the biggest games of the week is at 11 a.m. kickoff. I hate it, but so be it. We have to make do with what we have. What's going to happen? I'm seeing some people believing that Ohio State is going to win this game in a landslide. And here's my take on that. I think this game goes one of two ways. And they're both in favor of Ohio State. One way this goes is that Ohio State absolutely annihilates Indiana. Blows them out of the water. That is option number one. Indiana, as we said, really hasn't played anybody. Ohio State at least has played Oregon. They played Penn State, both of those on the road. They're getting to do this in the confines of their own home. They come out there and just annihilate them. Maybe similar to that Ohio State-Michigan State game back in 2021, where it was a top 10 matchup and Ohio State just destroyed the Spartans. That could be one way. The other way, and this is a pretty hard-fought game, that comes down to the wire. And even if Ohio State wins by, 10 to 14 points, they got a pretty good fight and clearly showed that Indiana does have what it takes to hang with the big dogs in the Big Ten. I'm going to go with the latter. That's what I'm going with. This Indiana team is good. I believe that. I believe they have what it takes. It's not their fault that the schedule has been so kind to them. Curt Cignetti is going to have his team ready to go. They fear no man. They fear no team. They fear no venue. They believe they can come in here and win this game. I don't think they will. I simply think Ohio State is too physical up front. They've got too much size. They've got too much speed. And home field advantage plays a very big role in this game, no doubt about it. But Indiana does keep it close. This will be, at the max, a 14-point game in the fourth quarter, if not less. Indiana will keep this game within striking distance, but they will never be able to get over the hump. Ohio State wins this game, but not convincingly, not horribly comfortably, but they do win this game. Indiana takes their first loss of the season, and they will have to await their fate for Selection Sunday. They should destroy Purdue in the final week of the season, but will an 11-1 Indiana team that plays Ohio State close get into the college football playoff, or will they get left out? That will be the question we have to monitor over these last few weeks. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com. Of course, our new holiday special over on that website. The link for it down in the description below. We want you to sign up, win big with us as a member of our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.